I've always loved the Library of Alexandria. Ever since I read about the burning of the library as a kid. And so I've always wondered what it would be like to live in a world where all human knowledge is stored in one place. Well, as it turns out, we already have. There was such a place, an actual, literal repository of all human knowledge. It's gone now. Everything that was there is gone forever. Today, we are going to talk about the Library of Alexandria, what it was, how it worked, what happened to it, and what we think we know about its destruction. You may be surprised to hear that the library was not a single building, but rather a whole complex of institutions, though most people are familiar with its sister library at the Serapeum, which served the rest of the city. The heart of the project was the Mouseion, a state-funded research institute which doubled as a sort of elite academy, kind of like Plato's Academy or Aristotle's Lyceum. Founded by Alexander the Great in 331 BCE, Alexandria was a port plugged into the world. Greece, Egypt, Africa, the Near East, India, the Ptolemaic kings who inherited Egypt had a bold idea. If knowledge is power, make a power plant. And so, the Mouseion, the Temple of the Muses, housed lecture halls, gardens, observatories, dining rooms, guest quarters, and yes, libraries. The Royal Library sat within or beside this complex. A daughter library at the Serapeum served the wider city. Who came here? Names that still echo: Zenodota's earliest head librarian, Callimachus, the poet-librarian who compiled the Pinaques, a multi-volume catalogue; Eratosthenes, who measured Earth's circumference; Aristarchus, proposing the sun at the center; Euclid's geometry tradition; Archimedes corresponding with Alexandrian mathematicians. Callimachus's Pinaques wasn't a shelf list, it was an intellectual map. Authors, works, summaries, first lines, provenance, basically the world's first mega-catalogue. So, how do you fill a superlibrary? With aggressive policies, ships docking in Alexandria had their manuscripts seized, copied, and returned. Sometimes the copies went back and the originals stayed. Kings bought entire private libraries. Scholars commissioned fresh copies from Athens, Rhodes, the Levant. Estimates of size vary wildly. Tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of scrolls. Remember, one book could be a single roll. A multi-volume work might occupy dozens. It wasn't just Greek, Egyptian, Near Eastern, maybe even Indian material in translation. Everything the Greeks could get. Epic and tragedy. Philosophy and mathematics. Medicine, botany, geography, histories, travelers' logs, technical manuals, Homeric commentaries, tragedies, medicine of Eratosthenes, Geometrica, Periplus, sea routes. Here, scholars didn't worship books, they edited them. They compared manuscripts, fixed lines, wrote commentaries. Critical scholarship was born between these stacks. So how did it die? Not in one night, more like a stuttering collapse. During Julius Caesar's civil war, fires set in the harbor spread to warehouses that stored books for copying. Ancient sources disagree on the scale, but many think part of the library's holdings perished here, likely stockpiles tied to the port. In the Roman turmoil under Aurelian, fighting reached the Braccian district, the royal quarter where the Mouseion likely stood. Damage here could have gutted what remained of the original complex. By late antiquity, the daughter library at the Serapeum housed collections. In 391, during antipagan violence under Bishop Theophilus, the Serapeum temple was destroyed. If books remained there, many were lost then. A much later tale blames the Muslim conquest under Amr ibn al, as for burning the library to heat bathhouses. Most historians consider this a medieval legend, not supported by contemporary sources. The bottom line, the library didn't die once. It faded in phases, across centuries. You might be asking yourself, if the library burned, why do we still have Greek literature? Because Alexandria wasn't the only copy. Texts lived on in other libraries, private collections, monastics. Meanwhile, Egypt's dry sands preserved caches like Oxyrhynchostrash, heaps of papyri that later yielded poetry. Gospels, receipts, plays, we lost a lot. Entire works vanished, Aeschylus, Sophocles, Sappho, scientific treatises. But Alexandria's editorial fingerprints, how we read Homer, how we cite authors, still shape the canon. Imagine what a typical day at the Mouseion might have looked like. Mornings in the colonnades, lectures, arguments over a tricky Homeric line. Afternoons copying and collating. Evenings dining on the royal stipend, while debating astronomy. Scholars here weren't just stuffing their heads full of facts. They were training their minds to think critically, to question and explore. They were trying to understand the world around them. Alexandria fused Egyptian temple knowledge with Greek methods catalogues, criticism, measurement. It was less a book museum, and more a research engine. Imagine the buzz of activity as scholars scurried between rooms filled with scrolls, searching for the perfect text to quote in their latest treatise. Picture the hushed reverence as they pored over ancient documents, deciphering faded ink and crumbling pages. Now envision the vibrant discussions that erupted during debates, as ideas clashed and sparked, lighting up the room with intellectual energy. In the gardens, surrounded by fragrant flowers and rustling trees, scholars relaxed, sharing stories and building friendships that transcended borders and cultures. The dream of Alexandria wasn't just hoarding scrolls. It was the belief that knowledge cross-pollinates astronomy, feeding, navigation, philology, cleaning history, math, refining music. That's why the legend endures. Not for a building, but for a mission. Today, we're rebuilding that mission in bits and bytes. But Alexandria teaches a hard truth. Knowledge is fraudulent, lest we copy, share, and care. Please like, subscribe, and share, so we can continue human knowledge into the future ages. Till next time on History Dude BC, stay curious.